Hi, I'm Teresa Ruth Howard. I'm very excited today to be here with a group of mothers and daughters to have hopefully my first discussion about body images and how mothers transfer or help their daughters deal with body image, and do we do that? So if you'll introduce yourselves. First we have
Michelle Holt, Pamela Newkirk, Sandra Phillip, Amanda Aviles.
And so we're going to just get started. Thank you for being here, first of all. So my first question is, how did you develop your body image? I mean, personally, I remember I'm the baby of 8. I have 6 sisters and 3 brothers, so not important. And I just remember, my mother used to take a bath, and I'd be in the room and she's getting dressed and she'd lotion her body. And I just remember this gesture, like she would have the lotion and she would go like this with her breasts. And I was like, I want boobs. Like that to me was like, that was woman. Like I thought my mother was the most glamorous thing on the planet. If I had known who Elizabeth Taylor was, I would have thought my mother was like, she was like her. And that was the first concept of my first sense of being a woman and body image. So something like that, like something that sort of defined woman or your idea of body and image.
Well, my mother was very glamorous, very beautiful, and very thin, but she hated being thin. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of helped me form my body image. I knew that she didn't like being thin. She thought a woman should be a woman. You know, she thought.
And you had a body type like hers.
Yeah, well, a little different. My mother was like naturally thin. She used to drink shakes every night after dinner, and she would drink Weight On. It was this product called Weight On, a powder that you put in your drinks.
Right, like a protein sort of thing.
But I did think she was a little off because I thought she was perfect.
Right.
Like I thought she was perfection.
And did that make you, obviously you became aware of the idea that something wasn't right, like she felt something wasn't right.
And as I grew up, I saw that women, no matter what size they were never happy with what they had. You know, either they thought they were too big or they thought they were too small, and it just seemed that, everything played into that no matter what you were not good enough.
Did you have sisters as well?
Yeah, I had a sister.
And so was this like a thing that went through the household?
Yeah, my sister was very thin, and they called her olive oil. But she would be like the perfect model.
Right.
So there was always this schism between, being thin and being too thin, and it was just never right.
It's never good enough.
Right.
It's never good enough.
I think that has continued. I think that with women, no matter what we are, it's never, and I see that with my daughters. I see it in society that it's never enough.
It's never good enough.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, when I was growing up, I developed very early. And in my family, that wasn't like a good thing. So I was like, it was almost as if I felt like I should be ashamed of my body when I was younger. Everybody in my family was, very slim, nice figures, but because I developed so young, I was like almost trying to hide my body from everybody.
And you had other sisters as well?
I had an older sister and a younger sister. And they didn't develop the same or as quickly, so it was like I was like the standout in the family, and it was that type of thing. So I was always scared to show my body when I was younger in any way.
Was your mother or father fearful of the idea? Like, how old were you when you started to develop? Like, was it very young? Well, nowadays it might not seem so young. Right?
Yeah, like 8, and my dad wasn't really around. My dad was. He was like, this is, you were great, you're beautiful. But with the women in my family, it's a whole different story. They're just like, nothing is ever discussed, everything's very just, don't talk about it, cover it up. Nothing was open, it was always just,
And so that probably contributed to the idea of, oh God, now I have these, I should cover these up. We're not even talking about them.
Oh yeah, definitely. It wasn't fun.
Right.
It wasn't fun.
I can relate something similar, but not with my family, with my friends, actually, in school. When I was in 8th grade, I was the last to develop. So they would call me names, and I would think, what's wrong with me? And they gave me a self-image, you know, like I was last to develop with my breasts, last to talk about the getting our period or anything like that. So it made me feel outside of the loop as well for being late, I guess, a late bloomer.
Do you have something you want to share?
Yes. Actually, with me, my mom was very secretive, but she never made us feel uncomfortable. But I always noticed, like, the outsiders, they were more like, we were very slim. Like, I have 2 children. It's 3 of us, my brother and my sister, which is older. I'm the middle child. And they always compare me to my sister. Even though we were both slim, I was always the fatter one. Even though I was slim, I was always the curvy one. And it was funny, like, people always compare siblings.
Oh, and in the comparison, was it like that it was better that you were curvier, or was there a judgment attached to?
It was either I'm shorter or I'm curvier. You know, it's always
right. And you don't know what to do with it. You're like,
okay. And I used to look at myself, is that bad? And I was just to look at myself and say, but I'm so skinny. Right. So I always had an issue with that, the comparison. But I never, it's funny, under my household, we would never compare. We were always beautiful. But when you go outside.
So it was outside of that comparison and that sort of thing. What's funny is we had 6 girls, and my mother, we never talked about anything. Like, I grew up with bras and girdles and tampons and the belts, the center, and like all that stuff. Nobody ever talked about it. I remember once my mother had a guest over, and my sister was like, "Mom, come get Joseph. He's shooting tampons." And but we never ever talked about our body. Like, it was that thing. Like, my mother got pregnant, immaculate conception every time.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like we just didn't talk about it. So, do you think that's maybe a generational thing? Do you remember having discussions like that?
Well, I do. My dad was very, he always communicated with us how he felt about the images on television, and my mom was different. Like, I think, even though my dad was so expressive in that issue, I think I was seeking it from my mom. And because I didn't hear from her, like, to me, I didn't validate what my dad was saying.
Well, I mean,
you understand?
yeah,
because it's coming from a man's point of view, not a woman's point of view. So she was always secretive. I don't. Maybe that's not the word I should use, but I always felt
that's what it felt like.
Yeah, why mom never discussed anything with us regarding women's issues?